This meeting will also be recorded and available afterwards from the YouTube channel of EKOME. So it is with great pleasure that we welcome you today to the 6th webinar of our EKOME MIL webinar series in partnership with the European Subchapter Mediterranean Group of UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance. EKOME MIL webinars are an ongoing project here at EKOME that aim at highlighting current trends and problematics that eventually will set a concrete media and information literacy footprint in the Mediterranean region. Today's theme is Media and Information Literacy and Artificial Intelligence in News Literacy, a very complex and challenging relationship in these turbulent times that we are hoping to explore with our guest speakers today from selected organizations, all members of the Mediterranean group of UNESCO MIL Alliance that EKOME coordinates. So without any further ado, and until the third speaker is with us, hopefully in a couple of minutes, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Antigoni Themistokleous from Cyprus. She's an officer at the Radio Television Authority, CRTA of Cyprus. And Antigoni, she has worked with the Media Literacy Policy Project from CRTA, and she participates on ensuring that the video sharing providers comply with the requirements of the AVMSD 2018 and the Cyprus law, and she also works on monitoring broadcasting content. Is that correct? Hi, Antigoni.
Yes, correct. Hello from Cyprus, and thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to discuss such a topical theme today. We look forward to the discussion, yes.
It is indeed. Next, we have Jeremy Bonan, Deputy Director from the Directorate for Online Platforms at ARCOM, the French Regulatory Authority for Audiovisual and Digital Communication, which is actually a recent merge of the CSA and Hadopi. Hello, thank you very much for being with us today, Jeremy. Nice to meet you online. And Oliver Vucevic, who is the Co-Secretary General of CMO, has some technical issues in joining us, but I guess we can move on with the discussion, and later on, when he's able, we can get back to him. Also, we have with us Despina Labada, our dear colleague from the Education Department, who is our technical support and back office. Hi, Despina.
Hello, everyone. Don't worry about me. I will be with my camera closed and my microphone muted most of the time, and just make sure that everything runs as seamless as possible in the background. So I won't be causing any distraction, but it's very nice to meeting you all, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Despina. And a special thanks to our audience who are from all over the world practically. You can put any questions for the guest speakers on the chat, on the Q&A session. We will be here available to get back to you. This is an international webinar, and we're very glad about it. So moving fast with today's theme.
I'm sorry, just one thing, Jeremy, it seems that people from our audience had difficulty hearing you just before.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Is the sound okay with you, Jeremy? Great, great, because we want to hear from you. So moving fast with our today's theme, we live in an online, interconnected metamedia world, where all creators, managers, and consumers of content and information. We're mostly screen addicts and information-savvy citizens. This abundance of information, though, sets the challenge for new media literacy skills, not only for the media professionals and journalists, but also for citizens at large. So artificial intelligence, dominant in our lives for the past decade at least, is mostly concerned with any intelligent activity that the machines can exhibit. As Alex Levoki-Shayad, co-chair of UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance, in his latest news update, the newsletter of the International Steering Committee, in the metaverse, what can we consider as real? How can we exercise our citizenship in environments of immersive reality? And according to his recent best-selling book, Reality Plus, the author, David Chalmers, also says that digital is not a second-hand reality. The hybrid world is real, even with unequal access across the globe. So having noted this, how artificial intelligence and AI-based technologies and media and information literacy are connected? What is the impact of AI in the news reporting and information universe? And the concurrent, what is the impact to the concurrent spread of disinformation? So let's start with Antigoni, ladies first. Antigoni, can you share your views?
Yes, sure, with pleasure. So I couldn't agree more that we live in a meta world, in a meta-cognitive society. So within this society, and when I refer to we, I mean the Cyprus Radio Television Authority, we consider that artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence tools and artificial intelligence-based technologies and media information literacy are strongly connected. We can see them as two different ropes, which are, however, tied very closely together. It's an unbreakable chain. We believe that we cannot consider the one without considering the other, because any development, any change in technology and artificial intelligence has some impact on literacy, on media and information literacy. We also believe that artificial intelligence today disrupts the traditional ways of learning in terms of education, but also the traditional ways of consuming media content. This is what we experienced the last few years. So there is a different way of accessing information, of facing technologies and digital services. So we cannot leave artificial intelligence out of attention when dealing and discussing media information literacy. So the awareness of the modus operandi of artificial intelligence, of the use of artificial intelligence, of any consequences of the implementation of these artificial intelligence tools, especially in the media, in the news media, we believe that this is a main competence, a principal skill of every media literate individual. So media literate individuals have at least a basic and fundamental understanding of how and when artificial intelligence is used, especially in the online environment or in the platforms, in the online platforms. I would also like to mention, to discuss a little bit the impact of these artificial intelligence tools, both on micro and individual level, meaning on media consumers and citizens, and also on journalists, but also the impact on a macro and more organizational level. For example, any implications for news organizations, for media companies, and in turn for the society. This impact, I believe that this is admitted. So in terms of the advantages, we can see how artificial intelligence can help journalists to generate routine news stories, especially for repetitive topics.
Mm-hmm. There is a problem with the sound.
Much easier, much cheaper. Oh, can you hear me? So since news stories are generated faster and cheaper and easier, this means that journalists, human beings, journalists have more time to deal and to do more complex work, to do more qualitative work and more investigative journalism. Another advantage of the use of artificial intelligence tools is the increased quantity of news production. And of course, in terms of accuracy, artificial intelligence tools do not get tired or distracted. Yet we cannot ignore the limitations and the drawbacks. And at this point, there are a few limitations and drawbacks that we would like to mention. So since artificial intelligence tools, and in particular algorithms that are extensively used in news media and in news platforms today, as they rely on assumptions, it means that they are subject also to some errors and biases. Since these artificial intelligence tools cannot ask questions, so they cannot explain any new phenomena, they cannot explain the causality between phenomena. They are only limited to observe reality. So in relation with the inferior writing quality, since they are not written by human beings, they may get a bit boring for readers, for the audience. What we deem a bit more important is how our autonomy, human autonomy, and our free will, especially in decision making, is questioned because of the use of artificial intelligence tools. So there is a great concern whether our decisions are currently really authentically individual, or whether they are in a more, the one or the other way, a little bit directed because of the use of algorithms. The digital gap, we see that the digital gap is rather amplified because not everyone is aware of these artificial intelligence tools and how these tools are used and whether they are transparent. So the digital gap is rather amplified. There are also some ethical challenges, ethical concerns that are raised because of the use of these tools for sourcing stories. For example, there are risks of violation of journalistic ethics, of media regulations, and this is a main problem. What I would like to emphasize, because I conclude my my contribution here, is that is our belief that if artificial intelligence is used properly and ethically and not abused or malused, then we have a significant tool in our hands to tackle any information disorder, especially in the online environment. We don't consider, we are not technophobic, and of course we are not technocentric optimists. We mostly focus on how we can address the challenges and how we can empower citizens through media literacy. So we make them able to face and to to think critically every moment that they consume media content.
Thank you, Antigoni. It's also a big challenge, yes, for the citizens. And the critical thinking, it might seem, easy from a first view, but it's not easy at all. It's a procedure that you have to cultivate the skills for years and years.
Exactly. And
it's yes, you want to add something, Antigoni?
No, just I underpin this that critical thinking is the most difficult, the most complex cognitive process that we can teach people. It's an attitude, so it's every day cultivated and enriched. So that's why we are here today, and we will be here for the same topics in 10 years.
Yes, hopefully with more development and more positive news on the use of artificial intelligence. Yes. So shall we move with Jeremy, because you are both representing the regulatory authorities, and it is a matter that engages the broadcasting regulatory authorities, because also the EVMSD directive sets this remit, but these two regulatory authorities we have with us today, you have a strong action, a remit on media literacy, which is very important. So Jeremy.
Yes, hello everyone. So maybe just a bit of background about ARCOM. So ARCOM is brand new. It's the marriage, as you said, the wedding between CSA and Hadopi was the anti-piracy agency. And I'm from the Directorate for our online platform, which is 1 year old. And I've just recently joined ARCOM. So I'm brand new on on the topic, so please be gentle with me. So artificial intelligence has been the buzzword for years. We know it's artificial, but we're not sure it's always intelligent. However, it relates to stuff being done automatically. And in the news information universe, it is one, if not the most distinguishing features of platforms. Contents are being user-generated, but the sorting out of the flow of informations of contents presented to the users is being made by is made by a computer. So that's I think the most distinguishing feature. Now we know that platforms they want their user to stay as long as possible on the platform, so we can take a guess, and maybe the algorithm that sort out the data, the informations, could be fine-tuned in order just to do that, in order for to make the user stay the longer. So this is maybe the new feature that we need to take into account with as regard to media information and literacy. Moreover, it's not about, we know education is a big part, but it's not because you're more educated that you are less likely to fall into the trap of an algorithm. And we all know that we can be more sensible to extreme contents, more than reliable information, even if you are educated. So in favoring contents that are less qualitative or more extreme, algorithm-led curations on platform can help the spreading of disinformation, as you pointed out in your questions. So it's of utmost importance that media literacy tackle now these issues, because social media, social networks, platforms are in the center of our everyday life. And so it's I think so it's a big part. And as far as France is concerned, we took into account the major role of platforms in the spreading of information and disinformation, and the law was passed in 2018 to combat fake news. The Title 3 of the law is called Online Platforms Cooperation Duty to Fight the Spreading of Disinformation. So the law now says that platforms have to cooperate to help fighting disinformation. To be more precise, platforms have to take measures to fight the spreading of disinformation that could trouble public order or alter the sincerity of major elections. And we are currently, as you may know, there will be the first round of the presidential election in France next weekend. So we are really into it. And just to point out what the law says, it says that it should help users to single out disinformation. So there are tools that we see on the platforms, and also it requires the platform to help financing education to the media. And this is exactly, they have big powers, they have big responsibilities, and they should help to elevate the level of education on regarding media. So that's what I could say.
That's indeed a very positive development. I mean, to have more funding also for media literacy for the citizens. And about this new law that you mentioned on disinformation, who are the main players? Is it the ARCOM, the regulatory authorities that have to, monitor media content?
So we are trying to do something. Well, it was voted 3 years ago, and it was before the beginning of all the talk about the DSA and the Digital Services Act for non-European guests and participants. And what we are trying to do, and I think that we are trying to see also in the DSA, is to move from content regulation to move from something that is micro, as said Antigoni, to a more macro regulation, and we call it systemic regulations. is to put obligations on the platforms. They have duties, and we check that the means, human, financial, technological means that they put on the tables are proportionate regarding the goals we ask them to follow.
Yes. Yes, because there is a clear need for passive actions from the regulatory authorities and active actions that deal more with awareness raising among the citizens and a more practical approach. And these also have a clear connection to fundamental human rights, such as the right to access to information, freedom of expression. So it's very on point. And we are talking about all this a new media vocabulary that has to do with the algorithms and artificial intelligence. We're talking about the Internet of Things, the OTTs, the over-the-top providers, deep fakes, soft fakes, video, online trains. All these are interacting with the algorithms, which is the main issue of artificial intelligence. And also there is a clear need, as you said, to support the technical industry, the gaming industry, creative industry with MIL skills and all its parameters that involve also media professionals and journalists, not just the citizens. And as you mentioned, the new AVMSD 2018 that has implemented in the regulatory in the law systems of the member states, talks about these things, tries to put some responsibilities, some engagements from the media stakeholders. So in case of your organization, your authority, are there any projects or initiatives that relate media and information literacy and artificial intelligence that could serve as a good example for exchange of knowledge within our community in the Mediterranean and globally? Antigoni, to my knowledge, you have had some action on media literacy in Cyprus.
Yes, we have indeed. We have some actions on media literacy. We don't have, unfortunately, any running project dealing in particular and only with artificial intelligence. But this is the use of artificial intelligence is one of the main perspectives in one of the media literacy workshops that we offer for secondary education students. So within this context, we discuss with students the use of artificial intelligence, the need to be aware of the risks, but also the need to take all the advantages that this kind of tools offer us in often to, sorry, and that's my tablet. Sorry, yes, and to take the need to take advantages of this kind of tools. We discuss especially the personalization of content and how artificial intelligence tools provide users, online users with personalized content, how echo chambers are created and maintained, what are the implications of the personalization of the content, how artificial intelligence affects our experience and engagement with the online world, how the individual right to information might be restricted, and then there are respective problems of freedom of expression if artificial intelligence tools are used and define the content that we consume and we read. So yes, this is one of the subtopics that we discuss in the media literacy workshops that are offered for secondary education students. And I would like to also to add that students find this particular topic very interesting, much more interesting than what we were expecting before. So, and they have certain opinions. They are interested in finding out more, especially when we talk about transparency and how, for example, Facebook users and Twitter users have the right to know which algorithms use and not use, or how they should have the choice to.
There is a problem with your connection, Antigoni?
To choose the algorithms to use. Oh, no.
I was actually
yes, my last point was
to ask you about
transparency. Yes,
I was going to ask you about the impression of the students.
This is one of the most interesting topics that we discuss, much more interesting, for example, than the construction of advertisement, or how advertisements are produced, and then different elements of advertising. Artificial intelligence, search engines are more attractive to for students.
That's very good to know, and it makes sense because you are diving into their own world, the online world, and
generations
something they're so familiar with. So you're talking their own language somehow. So
we talk to netizens. So Generation Z, they know
netizens.
A lot of things. So netizens. So this is their interest.
Oh, a rapid development of new terms. That's exactly. So, Jeremy, do you have any recent projects or activities that link media and information literacy with artificial intelligence, addressing the public at large or specific target groups?
So we don't really have I can't think of a specific program regarding MIL and AI specifically. However, what maybe connects the best two is we had other laws voted in 2020 and 2021. The 2021 was regarding the fight against the spreading of online hate, and with the same idea that platforms should cooperate to fight the spread of online hate or hate online, with the same idea of systemic regulations. And in the course of with these laws, what was created was what we call a observatory of online hate. And basically it gathers, it's a forum that gathers platforms, special interest groups, let's say a group fighting for free speech or human rights, groups against hate, and public administrations, law enforcement, and so we have this forum where they can speak all together, and we can monitor whether with the civil societies, with other public administration, we can monitor whether the platforms are doing a good job or not a good job, or how they can improve to fight online hate. We are starting to create trusted flaggers, and with more non-discriminatory choice of trusted flaggers. So it's a discussion. It's an ongoing discussions with platforms. So we are trying to create this society and to make platforms accountable towards the public, but you have to embody the public interests, and that's how we are trying to do. And obviously, it needs everyone to level up and understand better how the platforms are functioning, and it makes the platform have to be more transparent regarding the third parties, which is not always easy. They like to be secretive.
Yes, and it's actually, we need to realize that all the social media platforms, they are content providers themselves. So it is something that the users need to realize. And it's interesting that you mentioned the hate speech, because according to the latest, the Media Pluralism Monitor 2021, across the member states, the EU member states, the indicators under social inclusiveness, and especially the new indicator on protection against illegal and harmful speech, shows that the countries are at a high risk. And this is explained due to the fact that there is no policy framework to fight the spread of disinformation, or in all member states, of course. And at the same time, we have disinformation strategies more apparent than ever in the news reporting and agenda. And all this consists a major challenge when dealing with artificial intelligence in the quest for truth. All these may have a disruptive influence in the media ecosystem, where the concept of free will, as Alex says in his editorial, has been buried by history. So someone might ask, okay, so why does this concern us as citizens? Isn't this something for journalists and media professionals? Why do we need constantly on alert as citizens and users? Jeremy, would you like to share with us your point of view?
Yes, maybe I'll start with a quotation, and we'll see if it rings a bell. In France, the late Georges Clemenceau was appointed head of government during the First World War. He was famous to have said, the war is too serious a business to be left to the military only. And this is the, we could maybe say the same. It's the quest of truth and media pluralism is too serious a business to be left to only the journalists, and they are a big part of the quest. And I think it's not about the truth; it's about the quest. It's a process to try to gather information and cross-check to find to be the closest possible, as close as possible to the truth, if there's something such as truth. And so it's bigger than only the journalism. It's about democracy and the sanity of the public debate. A functioning democracy needs a functioning public debate to work. And so I think in democracies, the questions arisen by platform and AI and algorithm-led curation is the classical questions of checks and balances. Who is going to check the platform? What balance? And this is the kind of this is something we need to build. They have become too big. They are too powerful to be left alone and to let self-regulation do its job. They need to be transparent. They need to be accountable. Their business is legitimate. They are useful. I mean, I think we are all using platforms, and it brings value to everyone. So we have to make sure that the benefits are higher than the costs to the society. So again, with great powers come great responsibility. And this is the state of mind we are. And just to be more precise about the laws that were passed in France, they are temporary. They have been voted by the parliament to end sometime next year, when we think the DSA will be in force. So we are trying, it's test trials in France, and hopefully be useful to everyone when we all vote and transpose the DSA in our national laws.
Yes, we're looking forward to it, to see it as an example. Antigoni?
I totally agree with Jeremy, with whatever he said. And what I would like to add is that this is certainly not only for journalists and media professionals to develop and to deal with artificial intelligence in the case of the truth and the media pluralism. If there are any problems, any pathogenicities in terms of the truth and media pluralism, then there are significant consequences, negative consequences consequences of journalism, on how individuals take advantage of any opportunities. If we don't have or if we lack access to media content, and if media pluralism suffers, then there are definitely issues in terms of opportunities and the manner that we take our decisions and whether they are informed or not. There is definitely no power without responsibility. Maybe some actors have more responsibility to enhance media literacy skills. Whatever, if there is, what I would like also to critical thinking citizens that disinformation will be tackled. If citizens accept everything that they read or they consume online, then they are not in a position to face or to question what they read. So yes, meal is a matter that concerns everyone, every single individual. It's a right of individuals and of citizens, and as media regulators, we have the responsibility to contribute and to help citizens to have improved media literacy skills. Meal is essential. It's an essential requirement for individuals, not only to access and understand, but also to analyze and to create media content online. So yes, we consider them indispensable for the individual of the 21st century.
Thank you, Antigoni. It is often called as the new life skills or soft skills that are equally essential with the hard skills of the new generation. And it is clear that we're talking about a new media literacy intelligence that incorporates artificial intelligence, and it can empower people, individuals, societies towards sustainable democratic societies. And the artificial intelligence can enable the change of media and information literacy from a passive one to an active and even influential one. It can have a positive influential role into the news agenda. And it's interesting that you mentioned about the people, the media literate people, because those who have the media literacy skills, the media literate people, is certainly an asset to know how to explore within the online and offline world. But the challenge today is how can we create and enable a learning environment and accommodate those who think they don't have a problem, distinguish disinformation, misinformation from accurate information without alienating them. We need to get close to these people because, as you both mentioned, they are people well educated, but they also fall victims to the disinformation chain. So how can we persuade those who think they don't have a problem, but they do, into getting more critical with the content they consume? We also have very interesting questions at the chat, and we promise we will get back to all of these questions at the end. Anything you would like to add about how can we reach these people, society at large, combating disinformation, some tips? Antigoni.
If I may.
Yes. Sorry,
Jeremy. Jeremy?
Go on.
Jeremy. So that's a great challenge indeed, to persuade that everyone needs to remain media literate and to keep putting some effort on this to remain updated. I think this is a matter of mentality and of education. Citizens, individuals should realize, and we as regulators and all the stakeholders should realize that media literacy is interactive, is dynamic, is constantly changed, and is defined
There are some problems with the sound.
Yes, define, but sorry. So what I said is that all stakeholders should realize that media literacy meal is interactive, is dynamic, is never static, is flexible, and it is keep defining and updating and reshaping depending on the media industry, the media changes, the differences in the habits of the audience, then different business models. And this meal should be enriched in order to provide us with all the necessary tools and the mechanism to
fight
combat
against
disinformation. So it means is to fight against disinformation, but also against cyberbullying. So that's a matter of education and
of early education. It should start.
We should of lifelong education, not of education restricted only within the curriculum. It should start from a very young age, even from the nurseries, with some basic games, for example, and it should be maintained until retirement or even further, because lifelong learning.
Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what we're trying to do here at EKOME, to pursue and promote media and information literacy as a lifelong learning skill for all citizens. We have concrete actions for school environment and typical education, but we're also addressing the public at large, because it is an engagement and a responsibility that concerns us all, no matter what age. So, Jeremy?
Yes, I totally agree with what said Antigoni. I was going to say that, well, she said it all in the first round of questions. Critical thinking, I think it's most important feature, and we need to learn the new cognitive traps we are facing on platforms, and maybe this is where media literacy needs to renew itself. To be more focused on the new traps we can fall into. But I would add, in addition to this micro, and that it belongs to everyone to try to have this lifelong, ongoing education to media. It's not always easy. It's on the other end, we need at the macro level, we need a regulatory framework that make the platforms accountable. They are. It's not only user-generated content. We are not 10 years ago. They consider only here to host contents made by users. They are sorting them out. They may be trying to trick us for their benefits. So we need a strong regulatory framework. And I think what's being done currently at the EU level is very interesting. And hopefully we find the right regulation with this first try, but we will need to monitor if it's successful or not after we pass the laws and we build up the regulatory framework. And hopefully it will be good at the first try, but we will need to fine tune it along the way to ensure that platforms are bringing us the best they can.
Yes, and they are abiding by the law. It's the monitoring issue is actually, yes, the most experienced approach that we have to engage from now on. We need to have indicators, specific indicators on media literacy that engage the media stakeholders, public organizations, also private institutions. And this is something that also the new AVMSD directive of the European Commission addresses. So it's very important to have these reports, to have these indicators in order to be able, to set the agenda from now on, and to set and be ready for the next challenge. And and in order to decrease polarization and break the chain among the disinformation campaigns and enhance the critical thinking that will lead to the democratic societies. We just need to all be aware when it comes to disinformation, to realize each and every one of us why it is there at that specific time, at that specific platform. I'm talking about the user now, you know, the consumer, the news consumer. We need to think behind the first reading and to understand what methods or mechanisms are used to attract our attentions, or to be aware what methods are available to amplify this disinformation phenomenon, pathological phenomenon, as Antigoni mentioned. At this point, I would like to mention two resources that are very helpful for media journalists, for media professional journalists, and the citizens at large. The one is drawn by EDMO, the European Digital Media Observatory of the European Commission, that has 5 disinformation narratives about the war in Ukraine. And it's very interesting to go and see these narratives and how they are changing according to the audience they address to. And the other one is a MOOC, a massive open online course recently launched. It is called Facts for All. I will put the link on the chat and send it afterwards. It's a new EU project funded by Media Literacy for All program, and it addresses primary, secondary educators about how to deal with disinformation with some specific units and modules for the classroom. So as you said, great power comes with great responsibilities. This is something that we should keep. And I would also like to add that as Aeschylus, you know, the Greek tragedian, has said, the first casualty of war is the truth. So objective news reporting and representation in the media, online and offline, is a major challenge, a major thing that we need to also deal in a war setting that we are today. So we need to realize that all media effects are part of a continuum and do not approach them in isolation with the current reality. And for this reason, raising media and information literacy skills has to be in the spotlight more urgently than ever. I don't know if you would like to add something else here, or we can move to the questions. I see a very active audience. Okay, so we move with the questions. Let's see. There is a question, is there a particular protocol developed in order to train young users to identify deep fakes and fake news? I'm not sure if there is a protocol, but there is a methodology that is being used. Antigoni, yes.
Yes, there is not a protocol in terms of the very formal, in a very formal manner, but there are definitely certain criteria that we teach students to use them in order to evaluate the newsworthiness and the quality of journals. Just to pinpoint a few of these criteria. For example, it is very important to always think and check every single publication article that we read, especially before we share it. So we check and we think about the source, either the writer or even the media. We check the text, the quality of writing, the punctuation, the use of language, the date of the publication, and the phraseology, the articulation in the title. All these very lauding titles should indicate us something,
We're losing you, Antigoni.
Make us challenge even further the truth of the, sorry.
Sometimes
so yes, there are certain criteria to use them.
There is a technical issue with the connection sometimes, Antigoni.
With the sound. Okay, I'm just near the the router. So yes, we encourage students, and just to repeat very briefly, we encourage students to think and check their source, the source of information, the writer, and also the media that distribute certain material, to check the text itself, the article, the use of language, the quality of writing style, the punctuation, the titles, any pictures that accompany the article. These are basic points, basic criteria that students are encouraged to use.
Thank you, Antigoni. We're totally in the same line here, because media literacy has to be more heavily integrated in the school curriculum, dealing with issues of new media and news disruption. Jeremy, would you like to add something? We can
That was perfect with Antigoni.
Okay. I just put in the chat the two resources I mentioned earlier for our audience. There is a question: are there studies performed on how the freedom of speech can be transformed by AI? By Dorina Grosju. Studies, this is mostly for researchers, but UNESCO every now and then issues some publications that deal with media and information literacy and artificial intelligence. There is a publication dedicated to that. And because UNESCO deals with main foundation human rights, like the right to access to information, the right to information, media pluralism, and freedom of expression, you can find some examples in that publication. I can find it and put it in the chat. More questions about studies. Yes. There is one question by Adeline from Light Detectors, the EU-based media literacy organization in Brussels. How do the panelists think we can steer away from content moderation focused policies that are easier to quantify and monitor to policies promoting media literacy and transparency that could be seen as more difficult to assess? This relates closely to setting up an indicator system on media literacy that could try and quantify some specific through some specific variables, could try and quantify the level of media literacy skills among citizens. Anything else you might want to add?
Maybe go on, Antigoni.
After you. I have talked a lot after you.
You're both very lively, so go ahead.
I can't see Antigoni, so I don't know when she opened up the mic. I think it's, maybe one could think it would be better to have an algorithm promoting media literacy and transparency. I don't know if it's the question, but it's a bit tough because we still remain in free speech. It's about freedom of speech in the first place, and I mean, the way we put it in France is what freedom of speech is the principle and the foremost principle, but the abuse of freedom of speech, it has to have some limit. And this is why the burden we put on the platform, it's about fighting online hate or disinformation. So I'm not sure we could go as far as having them obliged to promote some kind of content that would be deemed to be better than other. What we're trying to do is do not promote content that are worst, bad quality content, and spreading disinformation. I'm not sure what's the question, but this is what it's wrong.
Thank you, Jeremy. Although I would personally want from the social media platforms not only to combat illegal speech content, but to promote more to promote media literacy into their awareness campaign and help cultivating media and digital skills to their audience. There is another question for you, Jeremy. In general, we use statistics to predict. So how AI is any different? I'm not sure I understand it.
No, I mean, I think it was the point I was making in as a joke, saying that you know, artificial intelligence is the new name of big data, which is the new name of statistics. The fact that the samples are big, I mean, for statisticians, the sample are huge and maybe way bigger than they used to be. But it's well, my understanding is that it's the same science. So I'm not sure it's any different. But maybe someone more knowledgeable would say it otherwise.
Thank you, Jeremy. There's also another question. Is it possible due to some who can create, alter the material? Are you talking about the deep fake techniques or the soft fake techniques video? Because there are available freely everywhere as an application. Everyone can download an application and alter the content, the video content. It's become very easy and common. So that's why we have to be double careful about what we read and what we watch online. Let's see if there is any other question that yes, there is another question. Okay, wouldn't it be wonderful if the United Nations adopted basic but global internet regulations? Adopting a global policy is always a challenge, and due to different geographical, cultural particularities. But if we had available resources on this issue, then we could help and motivate public policies in our respective countries and regions. And there are also some indicators about good internet use for the US, the ROAM indicators by UNESCO, that could serve as a form of engagement among the member states. And there is another question. Thank you about your thoughtful insight about media literacy and the tensions between human rights. For example, the limits of freedom of association and speech, such as hate speech. Okay. And also, I don't see any other question. I don't know if Vespina has gathered any other question. No. Okay. If you have anything else to add, I think it's time to end this webinar. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, Oliver Vujovic cannot be with us today. He has technical problem. We try to help him and guide him and assist him, but the Zoom won't let him for some reason. But we'll try to have him as a guest speaker in the next webinar, because he's a co-secretary general of CMO, which is Southeast Europe Media Organization that deals and focuses on journalists and media professionals and how they can cultivate and raise media and information literacy among the audience. There is someone who has raised hand. Okay, there is a question. Could governments be trusted to implement these projects of artificial intelligence awareness without bias? We have to be optimistic that it will be to the public benefit. And another question about media literacy politics from media regulatory authorities. As I mentioned, these two representatives of audiovisual and broadcasting regulatory authorities, they are dealing with media literacy either from a passive point of view, from self-co-regulation, or from an awareness point of view. And we want more regulatory authorities to deal closely with the media literacy issues. I know that ERGA, the European regulator of audiovisual authorities, have issued some reports. Someone was asking about more studies and reports, so we can also circulate this report on the task force on media literacy. And we have ourselves as citizens to be constantly on alert and try to think twice, to think critically before sharing content. Antigoni has also raised her hand.
Yes, something to add about the reports. Just recall that EPRA, European Platform of Regulatory Authorities, also has done great work on media literacy. So yes, if any of the audience would like to see these reports, all these are available, publicly available on EPRA's website. Irene, your microphone is muted.
Sorry, Antigoni. So yes, someone from the audience wants to add something. So Ruslana, please go ahead. Let me unmute. Despina, we have not given her permission to talk. Yes, I will send you all the reports afterwards, the ERGA and EPRA reports too, and all relative material.
Just one thing for Slana, we have given her permission to talk.
Okay.
She just has to unmute, but I strongly advise you to not start any video, because as I have written to everyone in the chat, this session is being recorded and live streamed. So we usually don't want attendees to.
You're talking about the form of consent.
Of course, to accidentally be recorded. So, but if the raised hand was by mistake, we can, of course, go on with our session.
Okay, so Ruslana, can you please unmute?
I think that he maybe didn't. It was also probably by mistake, because I can see that has left.
It's okay. It's okay. We have another question. Is there any way to increase awareness about disinformation among the illiterate or uneducated? We also discussed about that earlier, and my personal point of view would be not only start from a very early age in school, but also have more awareness campaigns from public institutions, from public service television. As we've seen during the COVID pandemic, there were many global campaigns against the pandemic. So we have to act proactively and reach the audience at large through awareness campaigns, through more and through concrete events and gatherings on these issues. And UNESCO is doing a great job with the global MIL week that is celebrated every year and deals with media and information literacy and disinformation as a subtopic. It is a global event that tries to reach and engage countries from all over the globe. Thank you for the question. Oh, another question. Does it exist any monitoring center for media and information literacy in any European country, such as France or Germany? I don't know, we don't have anyone from Germany, but there is a media pluralism monitor that deals with indicators on freedom of the media, on media pluralism, and under social inclusiveness. There are some dimensions that deal with media literacy, but a monitoring center per se on media literacy, to my knowledge, not such a thing exists. There is, though, the new expert group of the European Commission by the DG ACT and DG Connect on combating disinformation and promoting digital literacy. And being a member of this group, we will issue a report somewhere at the end of 2022, and some guidelines for the teachers, for educators, how to deal with these sensitive issues in the classroom. So there are things that are going on a European level, such as the European Digital Media Observatory. So we remain optimistic that one way or another, we can have a more concrete idea, at least for Europe. Antigoni, you wanted to add something?
Irene, yes, if the question was about any monitoring on media literacy,
we need to hear your opinion on that.
I am aware of a report that was published in it's a European project. It was a project executed by European Council, if I remember correctly, that was published in it's about mapping the monitoring or mapping media literacy activities in the EU member states. I think it was done by the European Audiovisual Observatory.
Yes,
but
yes.
The title was something like mapping or monitoring media literacy policies, activities, projects, and member states were asked to submit their main projects on media literacy. So maybe this is helpful for.
This is a report that was conducted in 2016, yes, I think.
That was a report.
And it was very useful. It traced actually media literacy in lifelong learning setting outside of schools. So it actually explored what are the media stakeholders that deal with media literacy. But it was one report conducted by European Audiovisual Observatory. Maybe we should have some kind of these reports, you know, more often. Thank you for reminding us about this, Antigoni. So if there are no any further questions from the audience, I think it's time to end this webinar. Thank you very much for your presence. Thank you, guest speakers, for your presence today, and especially many thanks to our audience, the international audience watching us from all over the place. We will have it also available online, and we would like to be in touch with you people for any projects, any ideas for collaboration that either Greece and EKOME can, you know, collaborate on a European level, on a you know, regional or global level. We're open to any suggestions that may be to the benefit of the citizens. Thank you very much. Antigoni, Jeremy, Despina.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.